Welcome back to the Miskatonic Test Lab. I'm Jake, and today we are playing through the Frozen Tracks scenario, the first scenario in the Winter Winds campaign, designed by Nick Kory. Prior to starting the scenario, I actually contacted Nick and asked him which investigator I should be bringing to his scenario, and he said to give Jenny a try. He kind of humbly bragged that the scenario was balanced enough for any investigator to try, but he said that Jenny would be good to try, so we're going to go ahead and play sort of a Dark Horse Jenny build. And I know that there's a lot of Dark Horse decks out there, but bear with me. Alright, I think that's enough preamble. Let's get into it. The train out of Yekaterinburg didn't have many passengers. A group of wilderness explorers looking to brave the perils of the Ural Mountains. Peter Turkowski, I think that's how you pronounce it, your employer and you. Hired to help protect Peter as he transported the valuable Jewel of the Winter Winds through the cold reaches of Russia. You take solace in the fact that this job was easy money. Until, on the second night of the trip, you were awakened by screams of terror. You stumble out of your bunk to find another passenger has come across the body of Peter Turkowski, stabbed to death in the cold night, and what's worse, his luggage lies open in disarray. The Jewel of Winter Winds is missing. Alright, Agenda 1, a killer on the train. Wrapping the body of Peter, you bring it to the cargo car of the train. Passing from the silent suspicion of the cars to the howling, biting wind between them. Alone in the cargo car, you gather your thoughts and determine to get to the bottom of this. Act 1. Question the passengers. Someone here is a murderer and a thief, and a train doesn't offer many places to hide. You're confident that you'll locate the culprit and obtain the Jewel of the Winter Winds in short order. And the game text says each non-elite cultist enemy gains action, parlay, test intellect 3, if successful, defeat this enemy. So I did record this earlier today, and I'm setting the video to 1.5 speed, so that way we can try to get through this as quickly as possible and keep the energy high. I started with Jenny, so let's go ahead and unpause the video and see what we do. Okay, so we draw our 5 starting cards, and we automatically get a weakness. So we want to set that off to the side and pick a new card. Looks like we have Dark Horse, Physical Training. Looks like we have some skills. And we're going to shuffle that back in. And the Emergency Quiche. Alright, so to start out, we're kind of thinking about what we want to do. If we want to investigate first, this is a Dark Horse deck, so we're probably going to want to get to 0 resources as soon as possible. And yeah, it looks like that's what I chose to do. I put 5 resources of assets down. Dark Horse is now activated, so I have +1/+1/+1/+1 to all stats. And the punching bag over there isn't really doing much. It's just kind of a resource soak or, reducer. So for my third action, I'm thinking to myself, should I just go for it? Should I move? What should I do? So I keep changing my mind, but I ultimately decide that I'm going to try to investigate with Dark Horse activated. And with an Unexpected Courage. So that brings me to 6 intellect for a Shroud of 5 versus a Shroud of 5. Alright, Chaos token. Still thinking about it. I shuffle the Chaos to be sure, and I fail. So that's a bummer. So I don't get that clue. But we got a bunch of stuff down, and we're going to go ahead and go to the upkeep phase. I've been using those little tokens to track my actions. So anyway, I get 2 resources. You can see my resources there on the left-hand side of the screen, underneath the card images that pop up. And for my draw, I got a pickpocketing. So that's cool. At the very least, we can use pickpocketing to get back down to 0 resources. Added a Doom, and we have Icy Tracks. Add a Doom or do a damage to an investigator, and I opted for the damage to give ourselves as much time as possible to get through this and just kind of set up, since we are kind of a combo-y deck. Alright, so I decide for my first action to put down the pickpocketing, because I just want to stay as close to 0 as possible with my resources. And I don't think throughout this whole playthrough I remembered that you can choose not to gain resources with Dark Horse. That might come back to bite me later on. So I decide to, with my second and third actions, to draw. Now I know that it's debatable whether or not that's smart to just draw all the time, but I really want to get my combos set up and get something to investigate with, get something to fight with. I draw the Wizard of the Order after upkeep and after Mythos. Wizard of the Order has to be put in an empty location, so I put him right next to me because he does get a Doom, and we probably are going to want to move anyway, so we're going to want to take him out. Hopefully we get something to fight him with, though. He does have a really high combat value, so... Okay, so I'm thinking about what to do with my first action. I draw again, and there we go. I got a flashlight, so that's going to be really helpful because this 5 shroud is killing me. So I'm thinking about what to do. That was my first action. Second action, I'm putting it down again so that I can keep that Dark Horse activated. And I decide for my third action to investigate with the -2 shrouds. So I only have 4 versus 3 now, 3 shroud location, and again I fail. So that sucks. So I'm like, bummer. Well, nothing much you can do about that. So I'll go ahead and go to the upkeep phase. I draw a Fire Axe. That's going to be awesome. That's like perfect timing. And I think there's only 1 Fire Axe in the deck. You can rewind and see what I spent my off-class cards on. All right, so we're adding that Doom. I'm adding a Doom to the Wizard at the end of the Mythos phase. I'm getting a little confused, but you just, yeah, because I was adding resources by accident. All right. All right, so I decided to put down the first Fire Axe for 1 resource, and that's automated, so the resources on the left-hand side, they're automatically going away and getting added. I, with my second action, move over there to engage him, and third action, I'm going to fight. So I'm going to go ahead and spend that 1 resource for that +2. That triggers Dark Horse, so I'm now at 6 attack with Jenny versus, I think, 4. The Wizard of the Order has 4. So 6 versus 4. Let's see if I commit any skills. Nope, I'm going for it. And +1, where was that +1 earlier? All right, so he gets defeated because the Fire Axe does another additional damage. And it looks like I'm abandoning that clue in the cargo train because it's just not worth it anymore. That was all 3 of my actions, so I'll reduce that. And now we're on the upkeep. So for upkeep, I'm going to gain those 2 resources. And for the draw, I got Jenny's twins. My hands are full. I think I was referencing that with my mouse over. My hands are kind of full, so I think Jenny's twins are kind of just going to sit there. All right, so this observant passenger, he actually has aloof, so he's going to go right there. He'll lose aloof if I have 2 clues. And that's just based on his own card text. So I'm just kind of reading all of that. I'm flipping over the location. I forgot to flip it over last time when we moved in, and good thing there was nothing that I had to change retroactively as far as like spawning something or something like that. So we're noticing that it's a 4 shroud, and for our first action of this round, we're thinking about investigating. And we're thinking about what kind of skills we can add to that. Do we want to double or nothing, try to get both of them? That would make it really difficult because we can reduce the shroud to 2 and then double or nothing to make it 4, but that would be too difficult. I'm looking at my deck list just to see if there's any lockpicks or anything, but lockpicks are 1 experience cards. So flashlight's all I got. So that's going to influence my decision to spend or not spend all of the flashlight tokens. But I went ahead and spent it anyway. So that's 2 shroud. I do have 2 resources, so I'm only at 3 intellect. That's why I add the quick thinking to put me at 4. So 4 minus 2 is still 2, and the shroud is 2 because of the flashlight, so we're good to go. And we gain that clue. So that's 1 clue for us, and we're trying to decide, do we want to try to get the last one? If we get the last one, we're going to engage that enemy. So we decide to just do it. We take the action on the actual location to take a clue and draw a card, and we engage the enemy. And then we swing with our axe. I kind of exhausted it to show that we swing. We add both resources. That puts me, I think, at 8. Because we have 3 for Jenny, plus 1 with the Dark Horse, plus 4. That's a total of 8. So 8 versus 3. And we get the Elder Sign. So we keep getting... That's just, that's the way of the Chaos Bag, is like when you're over-prepared, you get the good tokens, and when you really need the good tokens, you get the bad tokens. Anyway, we defeat him because the axe does 2 damage. And we go to Upkeep, where we get another Quick Thinking, we get 2 resources. And we get Between the Cars, which just gains Surge because there's no engaged enemies. And we get another Observant Passenger, so he loses Aloof and he engages with us, which we're kind of okay with. I mean, it's not the best, but we do have the axe, so we can just kind of make quick work of him. We have 2 new resources because we keep forgetting to trigger Dark Horse, but maybe that's okay as far as like keeping the 0 resources. So we go in and swing with the axe, lose both resources, again putting us at 8. And we get 0, so we kill him because the axe does 2 damage if you have 0 resources. All right, we're gonna move for the second action to the train car, and when you move there, you get let's see, discard a card until you reveal an enemy. So we're gonna discard. Oh, and we over discarded, so we're gonna shuffle that back in, and we get the Mysterious Passenger, who has Aloof, but again, forced. If you have 2 or more clues, then he loses Aloof. So he's engaged with us, or they are engaged with us. And we're going to swing again, but this time we don't have any resources to chuck. So we're just going with a straight 4 versus 2. I'm just reiterating. But we get it, so it's only -1. We lucked out there. That's great. 2 damage. I'm just illustrating that. I didn't do that earlier, but I was just illustrating that for you guys. And that's my turn. So we're going to go to Upkeep. I think that was my turn. Upkeep. Draw. Perception. I'm really happy to find that Perception because we've been kind of struggling a little bit. The flashlight is it's cutting it, but we're already this far into the game and we haven't gotten enough clues. If this was a sort of like Kluver deck, then we would really be rocking it. Alright, so we reached the 6 Doom threshold and advance to Agenda 1B, A Devious Endeavor. There's a slight lurch and you stumble back a step as the train speeds up. As if its increased speed wasn't bad enough, you now realize you're the subject of many harsh glares from your fellow passengers. As you attempt to leave this car, one of the passengers leaps up and attacks. If the ritualist is not in place, spawn it at the engine, spawn the set-aside experienced passenger at the cargo car, so they're kind of sandwiching us here. And if Act 1A is in play, which it is, the lead investigator discards cards from the top of the encounter deck until an enemy is discarded. Again. And spawn that enemy at our location. Okay, let's get back to the table. Okay, so I'm going to the set-aside stuff, and I'm adding that guy over there and that guy over there. The ritualist to the right, the experienced passenger to the left. And so now they're sandwiching me. And we're going to read the next agenda right now, and you'll see why that's kind of a problem. So we're just completing the discard cards until you get an enemy thing. And we get the Acolyte. So he spawns at our location. And we still have to deal with the other side of the agenda, and we still have to do our draw for the encounter phase. And that leads us to Agenda 2A, Hostile Takeover. These people are more than just mountaineers and explorers, they're cultists. You're not sure what their aim is in killing Tarkowski and taking over the train, but it's obvious they don't want you aboard. After an investigator discovers a clue, immediately move each non-elite cultist enemy 1 location towards that investigator. So we still do require some clues to get to the next act, and there's an elite cultist at the very right, so he's not going to move whenever this is triggered, but the guy to the very left he's going to move closer and closer to us every time we find a clue. So that's going to put some pressure on us. This is a 6 doom location, agenda as well. Okay, back to the table. All right, so at the table, I'm reading these guys and confirming what I said before, that every time I find a clue, the guy on the left is going to follow us. And we still have this acolyte to deal with, and we still have an encounter card to draw for the Mythos phase. So we do that in its Ancient Evils, which we put a doom on there. And the doom on the acolyte stays there because he was drawn after we added the doom to the agenda. So it took me a second to really, I had to look that up. All right, so we're going to punch this guy, I think, with the physical training. Or, drop some resources for that. But I changed my mind, and I decide we're just going to hit him with the axe for all of it. I wanted to try to, I think, reserve some of the tokens. Some of the resources for maybe other enemies. But I just decide, hey, let's just kill this guy. And we kill him handily, the same way we've been killing all the other ones. With essentially 8 combat versus whatever they have, and then we do 2 damage. And we need to get this clue, so we're debating whether or not we should use that final flashlight token, but we're thinking to ourselves, let's just go for it. We have 4 versus 2. What's the worst that can happen? And only -1, so we get it. Awesome. So we'll gain that clue. We only have 3, so we need to keep moving. That guy's going to move closer to us because we did find a clue. And with our final action, we're going to go ahead and move over. And we reveal the location. The action just says that we can spend a clue to search the top 5 cards of our deck and find an ally. We really need that clue, so we're not about to spend it on something like that. And we only have Leo, so we don't really need to spend it. I forgot to add the clue through the lackey shortcut, so I just did it manually. Moved Jenny out of the way so you guys can see. I'm just reading him. I'm making sure there's no hunter keywords. The last thing we want is to get sandwiched like that. So upkeep, I gain 2 resources. I draw into a card, and it's the Opportunist, which might come in handy. And now I have 9 cards, so I'm just looking at what I need to discard. And I decide to discard the Dark Horse. We already have one down. We don't really need the pips, so we're good. All right. Mythos phase, we add that Doom, and we get an Obscuring Fog, which adds Shroud to this location. That's actually the worst case scenario probably, because we can handle an enemy, but we're hurting for clues. So that makes it just a little more difficult. The Shroud is 3 on that location. It's showing a 2 location, but that's the one next to it. The location we're at is a 3 Shroud location. Now it's a 5 Shroud location. So luckily we still have that flashlight we can use. And we're really thinking hard about what we want to do. We finally decide to play the emergency quiche because we're trying to get Leo DeLuca out. So we spend an action to play that. That brings us to 5. We spend another action to bring us to 6. And we spend our 3rd action to bring us all the way down to 0 because we're playing Leo, getting us our 4th action, which we'll use to investigate. We use our flashlight to see through the fog, bringing the Shroud back down to 3. We have 4 because of Dark Horse, and we have 0 resources. We put in the Perception, that brings us up to 6. So 6 to 3. And we don't want to chance it. We know that there's a -4 in there, so we throw in the Quick Thinking, and we think, why the heck not? Let's throw an Opportunist. That'll let us get back the Opportunist, hopefully. So we go ahead and reveal a Chaos token for that. And we get 0, so we definitely beat this. We're going to gain that clue. We're going to get that Opportunist back. We're going to get an extra action for Quick Thinking, which is great. Obscuring Fog goes away. The enemy moves closer to us because we gain the clue. But we're not too worried because we actually get to move away from him potentially because of that Quick Thinking. And I'm wiggling it to remind myself to mention that. So that's exactly what I do. I move over to the next location to get far away from that guy to the left. And perhaps I was a little overzealous because now we have to find another enemy. Thanks, Nick. So we discard and we find an Acolyte. We place a Doom on him. We discard that accidentally into our own discard pile, so we fix that. And we have no more actions, so enemy phase, we're going to take a damage. So you'll see me add, I'm kind of talking through that to myself. I exhaust him to show that we're taking that 1 damage. Okay, that was the enemy phase. Upkeep phase, I'm going to get 2 resources and draw a card. I get another punching bag. It's not going to do us any good. We actually haven't used that the whole game, so that's worth mentioning. There's another Acolyte, but this one isn't forced to spawn at our location. It has to spawn at any empty location. So we're just going to put him as far away as possible. We don't really care. Just get him out of here. So that's 5 Doom, and we're a little worried because this is basically 1 more turn until the agenda advances again. But we're going to go ahead and spend our 4 clues now at the beginning of our turn to flip over that act card, and let's go ahead and read that. Act 1B, Finding a Lead. You drop the man back into his seat. I didn't know I was still holding a man. His face bruised from your questioning. What the coward has told you is that the train is filled with members of a secret society, and their leader, the one who took the jewel and killed Peter, has made his way to the front of the train. You don't know what he plans to do up there, but you don't want to wait around to find out. If the ritualist is not in play, spawn it at the engine. Act 2A, Recovering the Jewel. Now, knowing exactly where your target is, you steel yourself and head towards the front of the train. The objective is, if the ritualist is defeated, advance. So let's go kick this guy's ass. With our first action, we move closer to him. We reveal that we have to discard cards until another enemy shows up. But then we realize that, wait a minute, if we move right now, then we were going to have to take an attack of opportunity. So we're going to put that guy back. We didn't shuffle because he was going to be the first enemy anyway. So we decide we're going to take a step back and we're going to say, okay, maybe we should take this guy out first. So with our first action, we're going to use the axe to wipe him out. So again, we had 2 resources, so that brings us all the way up to 8. We got a +1. Like I said, we always get the good tokens whenever we don't need them. And we take him out. Then with our second action, we're going to move. And I'm taking a second to think about it, but since I already saw the enemy, I kind of feel like I should just go ahead and do that. So we reveal the mysterious passenger. And here's a weird thing. We don't have clues, so he doesn't lose aloof. He stays aloof. I think that's maybe an unintended thing about this scenario, is that he gets to just kind of hang out over there. Even though they're all crazy and after me, it's on the actual enemy card that he loses aloof. So we have 0 clues, and he keeps his aloof. So cool. That location didn't really hinder us that much. So that was our second action. We have 2 more thanks to Leo. So we're thinking about whether or not we can jump over there and hit him again with the axe. But we don't have enough. We can't really boost the axe, and get a big swing. So we're like, maybe we should gain a resource first. Oh, but if we do that, we don't have enough actions to get over there and kill him in one fell swoop. So what we decide to do is just gain a resource and just kind of be patient, bide our time a little bit. We draw. Oh, I guess we don't get a resource. We draw into drawing the sign. That was a random basic weakness that makes us have a hand size of 4. And then I guess we do gain that resource. Okay. So we discard at the end of the turn, maybe a little bit early. I think we were supposed to discard again at the end of the upkeep phase. I'm not sure what drawing the sign actually says, if it says end of your turn or end of the upkeep phase. I think we just might have goofed that, but I don't think it's going to make a huge difference in our progress this game. I finally realized that we should probably discard all of this stuff. I finally realized we probably should have drawn for that. And so I'm kind of retroactively discarding a couple of things. So we jump over to the ritualist. He engages us. We reveal the location. It doesn't do much. It just has an investigate action to delay the agenda. And now's probably a good time to mention that we might have goofed the Doom a little bit on the Acolyte. It looks like there's 7 Doom total, and we didn't advance the agenda, so that's maybe our mistake. But we handily defeat the Ritualist with our Fire Axe, and at least in the moment, we felt like we were winners. So that's the end. Act 2B, A Hasty Retreat. As the cult leader falls back out of the train, you grasp the jewel and rip it from his neck. With a scream of fright, he falls back and bounces down the mountainside below. But what do you do now? With a train full of hostile cultists, you turn to the controls and hastily find the brake lever. Wrenching on it, the train screeches to a halt. You've bought yourself some time, but not much, leaping from the engine to land in the deep snow. You decide to head for the village you spotted a short distance back. Hopefully those cultists won't follow you into the growing twilight. Resolution 1. You make your way through the deep snow, heading back in the direction of the village you spotted from the train. The sun is setting behind you, casting long shadows through the trees and rocks all around. Where once you were nearly overwhelmed with the calamity of the train, you're now caught in the silent stillness of the Ural wilderness. Pulling your overcoat tighter, you trudge onward. And our campaign log will record that the investigators have recovered the jewel, and we get to put the Jewel of Winter Wind into our deck, and it doesn't count against our deck size. And we get experience equal to the victory value of each card in the victory display. I didn't really show it, but the Ritualist had 1 victory point, and one of the locations that we cleared had a victory point as well. The one with the 2 clues. The only location with 2 clues had a victory point. And the very first location had a victory point, but we didn't earn that. So we earned 2 victory points. Join me next time, and we can hopefully continue this campaign where I will likely turn those experience points into lockpicks, because we badly need those for this deck. So thank you for joining me for this scenario. That was Frozen Tracks, the first part of the Winter Winds campaign by Nick Kory. Thank you, Nick, for making this awesome scenario. It was super enjoyable. It was shorter than some of the other scenarios that I've played, but I think that's a great thing. I don't like it when they drag on and there's lots of puzzling to do. It was straightforward. It was fun. There was pressure there because those 2 guys were trying to sandwich us, trying to, whenever we gained a clue, I felt the pressure of them moving toward us. Having Leo and having the quick thinking really kind of allowed me to subvert that pressure, but I think any other deck would be kind of pressed for time there. Another thing is something that I thought was a little wonky was how the enemies could regain aloof if I didn't have clues. That it felt like I should have fought that last enemy that I was able to kind of skirt past to get to the Ritualist. And then the other thing is that the Ritualist can hit you and take away clues. We didn't really feature that much in the video, but I thought that was kind of like an anti-synergy there. That whenever you would lose clues, then the other enemies would gain aloof again, and you could just try to, you can just like evade them, and they'll be aloof forever. But it's no big deal because by that point we were already wrapping up the scenario, and we were already on a mission to kill the Ritualist. So it was actually kind of nice not having to deal with that last enemy and just dealing with the Ritualist. It was really rewarding. So I'm excited to see what the next scenario has in store for us. Thank you for watching. This has been the Miskatonic Test Lab. See ya.